Where Nothing Bleeds by Interstellarism on AO3. Episode 5, Chapter 5, Accountability. What were your students like? If you want to make Ryland Gray smile, there was one surefire way to do it. Ignite what he's passionate about. My kids. They were a great bunch. We had this game. It was their favorite. It was called The Beanbag is Lava. Here it is. He finds the beanbag on the table, the blue and green yarn thing that Simon had been seeing when he first woke up. So that's what it was? Grace tossed the beanbag to him, and Simon catches it from where he was sitting. Simon holds the little plush thing in his hand. This was probably one of the most important things to him, if he had a guess. They'd just had dinner, and they were doing their favorite activity together, talking. I'd throw the beanbag, and whoever caught it had to answer a science question. Abby was always the fastest to answer. She'd steal the spotlight from her other classmates. Jeff was always the one who was always neck and neck to her. Tarjan was a bit more on the quiet side, but boy, that girl always aced my exams. I think I had to make them more difficult just for her. Ryland always got that twinkle in his eye whenever he spoke about his students. He referred to them as his kids. To Ryland, they were his own. Simon admired it, mostly because he couldn't possibly understand how to do it himself. Nurturing a bunch of young minds like that felt like a daunting responsibility, and Simon wouldn't know where to begin if he even tried. He liked watching Grace talk about them. His eyes would light up, and he'd get this little half smile on his face. He would look away from Simon, focusing on the wall or the floor as he lets his mind wander back home. Do they know you're all the way here? Simon asked, tossing the beanbag back to him. Ryland catches it. He squashes it in his hand. Yeah, they did. Grace says, quieter this time. Before I even started working on the project, I had to live on a boat, so I told them I was going on a mission. I just didn't tell them what that really meant. He exhales, rubbing the back of his neck. They made me notes, drawings, stuff like that. Strat was nice enough to put those in my personal items. A small, almost absent smile flickered across his face. I even showed them to Rocky. Actually, when he was recovering, figured it might help. The smile fades just as quickly. But it's been years. I don't know what they were told after I left. I don't even think the media ever got the full story about the explosion, about the crew. They barely had time to prepare anything properly, let alone explain it to a bunch of kids. A pause. If they remembered me at all, I just hope it's not as someone they had to mourn for too long. Simon liked asking questions. Maybe it's because he spent a good chunk of his time in the SM-13 asking questions, only for them to go unanswered. It was always a no, stop asking, just accept it, deal with them. Like their impatience was worth more than his own life. He didn't realize how much he hated it until now. Rylan liked his questions, though maybe that was another teacher thing. What about a partner? Did you have a girlfriend back home? Rylan makes a stupid sound and scrambles to catch the beanbag the next time Simon throws it at him. He fumbles with it in his arms like it's actually made of lava. Simon doesn't know where the inclination to ask even came from, but he felt like he had to know. Uh, no, no, I didn't. I did have an ex back in college, but, I doubt she cared enough about me to want to know what happened to me. So he wasn't committed to anyone. It was good to know that the first attractive guy Simon met outside of the SM-13 was single. That, and he was the only other human being around. Ryland seemed flustered, tossing the beanbag back. Why am I the only one getting interrogated here? What about you? Same questions. Kids? Girlfriend? Simon catches it again, tossing it up in the air, squishing the ball in his hand. He couldn't remember much of Eden. Every time he tried, he would get bombarded by the sounds of different people's voices, condemning him and telling him he was destined for a life of torment, calling him the Butcher. He couldn't remember what happened at Flintament Station, or if he had ever had anybody that would miss him. Anybody at all. He had no recollection of his parents, siblings, or friends. The last remaining person who felt like were on his side by the end was Eva, but she was the one who put him there in the first place. No to all the questions. Tossing it back. Really? There wasn't a single person back home that might have missed you? Ryland throws the beanbag back to him. If there was, they'd be dead. Simon answers flatly. Ryland's expression falls, and Simon feels the urge to soften the blow. But it's not such a bad thing to imagine. He sighs. I just can't remember much of my life before I was forced onto the ship. It's like they took a pickaxe and hacked away until they harvested all the memories out of my head. Every time I try to remember, I get really bad headaches. Ryland seems to stare at him a bit. Then, the blonde opens his hand, as if asking for it to be tossed back. What was he saying? Did he relate to what happened to him? Simon throws the yarn ball back. Ryland gingerly holds it in his hand. Before they put me in the coma, Strat wanted me to be able to work on the mission as soon as possible when I woke up. That meant I couldn't waste time freaking out about why I was there, how I'd been forced, all that lovely stuff. They had to drag me kicking and screaming after all, so she did what she did best. She found a way to skip all of that. She got her hands on a drug that would forcefully cause retrograde amnesia for several weeks. She calculated it down to the time when I would wake up, how long the amnesia would last, and that by the time I remembered everything, I would be too invested in the mission to stop. Simon is speechless. Sometimes he selfishly thought that Grace would never understand what he went through on the SM-13. In some ways, that was true. Their ships were completely different from each other, made of entirely different materials for entirely different purposes. Grace didn't have to slowly suffocate to death. He didn't have to deal with his flesh melting off. He didn't have to deal with the ingesting bucket loads of human blood. But whenever he learns more about him, he slowly pieces together more and more similarities that were as clear as day. He and Grace were expendable. But humanity put their underdying faith into Grace's hand, even if they had to force him to accept it. Simon was one rat of many, a vermin that died trying to save something they clearly had no hope of being saving. He doesn't know what happened to the black box. He doesn't know if his suffering was in vain or not. I'm sorry. He tells Grace. That's all he could say, and it had been extremely effective when Ryland said it to him. Ryland shakes his head, smiling. It doesn't reach his eyes. I've made peace with it. For a while, I hated Strat for what she did. But how could I hate her when she ended up being right? He wonders if he could feel the same for Eva, if he could ever bring himself to forgive her. She was dead now, so there wasn't really a point in holding grudges. She was doing what she had to for the sake of humanity. It wasn't easy, and if Simon had been in her position, maybe he would have done the same. It's strange. He never would have thought of forgiving Eva, or the C.O.I. until now. But seeing how Ryland could make peace with the one who condemned him, then maybe he could too. Maybe he could live the rest of his life without being haunted by his own circumstances. If he really wanted to live freely, Then he had to learn to let go of what was anchoring him in the first place. You're a better man than me. Simon huffs, stretching his chair and cracking his back. Ryland averts his gaze, tossing the beanbag on the table beside them both. We should probably turn in. It's getting late. And hey, you know what? Tomorrow I've got a class scheduled. Maybe you could sit and watch? Simon gives him an incredulous stare. What on earth could he contribute to a science class for Eridians? Grace notices hesitant, immediately clarifies. Oh, you don't have to worry about teaching or anything. You could just watch. Trust me, they're pretty entertaining when they want to be. Doesn't seem like a bad idea at all. Plus, it's a chance to watch Ryland in his element. Okay. Simon nods. Ryland beams, and he's immediately glad he agreed. Okay, I'm looking forward to it. Good night, sigh. Corny. It's working on him. Good night, Ry. This is something that I love about Project Hail Mary specifically, and it's how we can't really fully hate Strat. She was doing what she had to save humanity. And yeah, sure, it wasn't 100% sure that, that would save humanity, right? But she couldn't just not do anything just because Grace didn't want to go. So, yeah. As you could, don't get me wrong, you could so be upset for what happened and for, Grace. Because I'm not saying what she did was 100% correct either. It's not 100% wrong either. It's gray. It's the trolley problem. It is what it is. It's the trolley problem. And she chose an answer. That might be a different answer than what you would do. But she chose an answer. And she chose an answer that would preserve a lot more lives. Because in the end, she was 100% right. Ryland was able to save, all of Earth, and even Erid, and sorry, I had to take out something from Storm's food. But it is what it is, and you can't really be mad at her because she was right. And even if she turned out to be wrong, like, she did it in hopes that she would be right and that she would save humanity and that she would, save humanity. And I know in the book she ends up being arrested for all that stuff. And it's sad because she did all of this for humanity only for them to turn around and do this to her. I've even seen some people talk about how had she been a he, maybe they would not have arrested him. But she was a she, and she was also a historian major. I didn't know that till the book, obviously. So, of course, out of everybody, the person to be able to, know what would happen and be able to save humanity would be a historian major. But holy hell. I love this chapter. This chapter is a really good chapter to build, a bond between Ryland and Simon. Obviously, we have I think this is the first time their nicknames are brought, which is Ryland calling Simon Sai, and Simon calling Ryland Ry, which is just the first two letters of each other's names. So I will see you in 3 days for chapter 6, and episode 6, Convergence. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.